sanibonani, greetings once again. Aba ayalew amlak, heruse kemang kabun. Sido samanzi, uzinyo lengwe, uboya bengwe. Namhlanje ngivakashelwe bakwethu umuntu special kimi enhlizweni yami. Now, Kgosi Muhammad, the first guest engike ngayi-introduce ngegama layo on this platform. Ngi-introduce ngokwami, ngifuna uzisho ngokwakho igama. Umfana wami lo. Kgosi, ya kuyahlanyanyana lokhu. Akulali kuyaphupha. He's a dreamer. He's a thinker. He's a scholar. He's a young man, angazi ngithini. Tembe ngibeke njani? He's a young a young visionary. He's a star waiting to reach the sky. Mhlawumbi the day ngikhathala ukuba i-grandmaster ngizoshiyela wena. Mhlawumbe angakubulala uTembe. Ngiyadlala bakwethu, but welcome, very welcome. Those of you who don't know Kgosi, he's that young man who speaks about very strange things. He'll explain to us his strange things.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much, Nkulu. I don't know if maybe I should reintroduce, or maybe we've already done it. I think maybe 80% you've covered it already. Because I don't like calling myself with these other names or titles. Kgosi Muhammad is fine, that's it.
Yeah.
The title, hey, I want to speak. I don't like them. That's why I get it. Maybe you've covered 80% of them. And maybe another thing I can say is that well, obviously, maybe many of them can see at home, which I'm an initiated healer. Yesterday, 2020. So, and I was 20 years by that age. And then from there, certain things happened, poor experiences that eventually led me here today. And that also eventually led me to creating a website whereby I teach about the things that I've dreamt of, the things that I've been taught, right? So, yeah, that's it from my side in terms of that extra 20% in Yan and J.
When you vuli website yamaphupha, a dream website. Yes, Makate. What do you teach on this website?
I like to say I teach the true history of Black people.
Okay.
Yes, that's my main focus. And
hey,
you see that one? Very, 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 very sensitive. Yes, I do teach about the true history of Black people from back beyond then, many, in fact, millions of years ago up until today. And I try to put things into perspective as to what happened before, what's happening now, what will happen after.
Kgosi.
Yeah, Mkhulu.
In 2020, utwasil.
Yeah, Mkhulu.
That is 5 years ago.
That's 5 years ago.
Meaning, and you were 20 years old.
Yes,
meaning today you are about 25 years old.
Mkhulu.
Na ingane izongitshela millions of years ago. Are you saying millions of years ago Africans existed?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Come with it.
Right. So, before I get into it.
Before you get into that, yes. Before you get into it, let me get into it.
Right.
According to the Bible, if you study the chronology of the Bible, from Adam to Christ, there is a period of 5,500 years, according to one version of the Bible.
Okay.
Right? So let's take that common known version.
Okay.
So from Adam to Christ is 5,500 years. And Adam, we all know, is the first man on earth. We all know.
Yes.
All know. He's the first man on earth. So 5,500 years after Adam, Jesus is born.
Mm-hmm.
Right? From Jesus, we are now at 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So roughly we are at 7,525 years
Yes.
since the world was created.
In general.
Right? Some other Christian theologies or churches go even down to the date ukuthi ngeyi-4 zikaMeyi ngo-3 emini. Abanye bathi ngeyi-6 zika-October ngo-9 ebusuku creation started. But it's within that 7,000 year bracket. And you are saying Africans existed millions of years ago?
That's exactly.
Where when Adam had not yet been born?
Thank you very much for that, Mkhulu. The story of Adam is a story, by the way.
Isile le ntwana le. Manikakhuza man. Utokhokho bethu ba believe story.
Ba believe story Mkhulu injalo ya.
Wow.
Injalo.
Confidently so.
It's a story about First of all, I'll say the story is not dated properly.
Okay.
They according to what I know, according to what I've been taught, it is not dated properly. The so-called Adam was actually born about 6,000 years ago, right? And Christ was indeed born 2,000 years ago, meaning that there is a period of actually 4,000 years between who so-called Adam and
Christ.
Okay. Right? So now, the reason before I continue, I want to get into what I wanted to get into that time, right? You know how in varsity there are varying levels of knowledge, right? You start maybe with a 3-year degree. After that, you do your honors, your master's, your PhD, right? And then I'm trying to use that analogy to say that's exactly what's happening in this world. That and that is something that many people do not know actually. That there are varying levels of knowledge, right? So I want to break down those knowledge first and show you where I'm coming from, then we can move forward from there, right? So now, according to what I was taught, in history, it's a lot of it. Long before the so-called Adam, who I'm gonna say right now is actually the white man, right? So 6,000 years ago, the white man was created, but before then, only black people existed on the earth, according to the history that I was taught, right?
6,000 years ago, white man was created.
White man was
Before that, only black people existed.
Only black people existed on the earth.
Okay.
Yes. So now, there are okay. I'm gonna start it from the beginning then. I'm gonna start it from the very, very beginning. From the creation of the earth. That's where I'm gonna start it. According to my teacher, the earth was created 78 trillion years ago. Not million, not billion, trillion years ago. After the earth was completed, 144,000 ancestors came from the star that is known as Sirius. That is our parent constellation, right? That's what black people have been doing ever since the beginning was no beginning, right?
Beginning of no beginning.
The beginning was no beginning. So 144,000 ancestors, all of them whom were black, and this was 78 trillion years ago, came to inhabit the earth. They expanded and they reached a maximum number of 1,000,000,008 million.
1,000,000,008 million.
1,000,000,008 million.
Okay.
Yes. So now, that's where I'm going to start the history. There's a history even before that. How were we at Sirius? How was the earth created by who? But I can get into that later. So now, back then, the black people that existed were not like us today, as we are today, whereby we are different hues of black. We are
to caramel.
We are born.
Yellow bone.
There was no such thing back
Oh,
then.
bekungenama-yellow bone.
Back then, nix.
Bekunabothembe nje kuphela.
Every single person was as black as the night sky.
Ha. Wonke umuntu ayifana nawe ngolanyama. Nix ma-yellow bone.
Next, my yellow bone. I will tell you how the yellow bones came into existence.
Nabo ma-yellow bone ba-manufacturiwe.
In sort of,
Okay, iza nayo
Sort
mfana
of.
wami, iza nayo mfana wami.
right.
Malika akayazi lento ishoyo le.
But there are still black people as well.
Okay.
So now, from 78 trillion years ago, I'm going to fast forward to about 50,000 years ago, right? Where the very, very first idea was conceived of whatever is happening on Earth right now, right? Remember back then, we had a society. Maybe let me just talk about that society briefly. There was 1 billion, 8 million people, always, constantly, black people on Earth, right? That time, there was no white people, and we were not like this. We had perfect bodies that were about 7 and 7.5 feet tall, right? So we were not even this short that the way we
We're
are.
actually all like
We were
giants.
taller, yes. If you look at what is this? At Egypt, there's a statue of Tutankhamun as well as Amun-Ra, whereby Amun-Ra is seated and Tutankhamun is standing. That is a very accurate description of how things were before. Tutankhamun, the boy king, is actually the way they build those structures. He's about our height. And then how the height that we had back then is the height that Amun-Ra is sitting on next to Tutankhamun.
So all those big statues that's in Egypt, that's how tall those people were.
Yes, but then others
Physically.
are too big. There are others that are outside that are just gigantic. Not those ones. That's why I'm referencing this specific one.
But at that point, the size was dropping.
Yes.
Okay.
So back then we were tall, about 7-8 feet tall, and we were completely black, matte black, right?
Like this man here.
In fact, blacker than him.
You're not black enough. Damn, you must get blackified.
So we were living in believe it or not, our society was perfect and cool. And it was structured in this way. We had 12 tribes spread across the entire earth. And if I were to get into the hierarchy of our leadership, right, each and every single tribe had 2 leaders in soulmate pairs, a woman and a man, right? Meaning that if there are 12 tribes and each and every tribe has 2 leaders, it means there are 24 leaders in total. We refer to those as the 24 elders, right?
Okay.
They are referred to as the 24 elders.
Laba base Bible laba around the
You
throne
see
of
the
God.
24 elders that are mentioned in that's the 24 elders I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Zana mtanam.
And then
Mamel.
when we zoom into one tribe, a tribe was divided into clans, right? And each and every tribe had 6 clans. And each and every clan, again, was led by 2 soulmate pair, a man and a woman. Meaning that in one clan, it's 2 times 6, that's 12. Then we have 12 tribes. 12 times 12 is 144, right? So in each and every one of those clans, we had 2 soulmate leaders, a man and a woman, and they were called the 144 chiefs because there were 144 in total. Those are the ones that are below the 24 elders, right? Now, when you zoom into a clan, each clan has multiple communities. In fact, every single community, every single clan had about, if I can remember well, is it 100 communities or 1,000? I don't think it's 1,000. I think it's 100 communities. And every single community also had 2 leaders. And those were called the judges. If you multiply it out, you will see that in total we had 144,000 judges. And those were a step below the chiefs. So in terms of our hierarchy of leadership, we had 24 elders, 144 chiefs, as well as 144,000 judges. The judges, what do we call them in Setswana? Baatlhodi. Yes, the ones that do that type of work. And then there's chiefs, and then there's 24 elders. Then below the 144,000 chiefs is now the rest of the black community. That's how our society was, based on what I've been taught, right? And it was perfect. They say it was perfect. We had perfect plants, we have perfect animals, and everything like that. Now, 50,000 years ago, right? a decision was made by the 24 elders that they need to start preparing for the cycle that we are in right now. I will talk about that cycle just now. And to prepare for this cycle, they call it the cycle of self-forgetfulness. Or the cycle of, they call it the cycle of evil. Other people, I don't like calling it cycle of evil. I prefer self-forgetfulness, whereby we are going to enter into a state whereby, as Black people, we forget who we are. But who are we forgetting who we are? This one maybe might shock a lot of people. But what we have forgotten as Black people is that Mkhulu, we are literal gods.
Yeah?
We are literal gods.
Angeke. Now ngikhosi ngitshela ukuthi uNkulunkulu. You are God, you.
Even you, Mkhulu.
Even me.
Yes. Everyone here is God. Who's Black?
Noma kadebe lo.
Goddess.
Okay, uba follow yena because he's not Black yena, he's not God.
Ubani lo angimboni yes.
Ukungenile la walungisa ugesi.
No.
He's not God.
He's not.
Angeke, uGod partial. Why is God partial?
There's an explanation.
Why is God partial? Why is God racist?
It appears so. It appears as if God is racist. But
yeah, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a man who is not Black is not God, but the man who is Black is God.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, Kgosi manyakuza. What do you mean? Okay, what happens if, not to divert you, I'm going to come back to you. I'm just asking, would believe it or not, we forgot that we are gods. And you're saying that only Black people are gods. What if Peter van der Merwe marries Sibongile Khumalo and they get a child called Peter Njabulo van der Merwe?
Yes.
And Peter Njabulo van der Merwe marries Ujabulile Khuzwayo. And they give birth to a son, Swiss Beats Khuzwayo.
Swiss Beats Khuzwayo.
Now, Swiss Beats Khuzwayo, he's Black.
Yes.
His grandfather is white.
Yes.
Now, are you saying God was born of a devil?
That's not the case at all.
What are you saying? Is he Black or white to Swiss Beats?
Most definitely Black.
But his grandfather was white.
His grandfather was white.
Is he white or is he Black?
He is definitely full 100% Black.
So he's God.
He is God.
And his grandfather is not God.
His grandfather is not God. I will explain it. I will explain it in Kulu. So let me touch on that before I continue with the 50,000 years ago.
What this is what we forgot.
This is what we have forgotten.
Yeah.
Right?
Touch on it.
We must understand why I'm saying that Black people are gods, and how the process of us being God actually came about, right? If you look at so this is what we are told, right? Is that God can only incarnate in the dominant Black gene, because God uses the dominant Black gene to create everything else. That's where the Black color stores every other color. If you are white in your genes, in your body, you don't have Black anymore. How can you create something that is Black? Because God creates from his very own body. That's what we are told, right? So that's why God incarnates in someone who is Black. Now, this issue of grandfather being white, my grandfather and grandmother being Black, here's where what's happening. It takes about 7 generations of intentional breeding to remove the Black gem from someone, because the Black gem is naturally dominant. If you take a white man and a white woman right now and they have a children, that child is Black because the genes from the mother are dominant as they are Black and the guy is white. So the dominant ones are the ones that are going to go forward. Now, how do we get to a point whereby we fully remove that dominant dark gene? It takes 7 generations. You take people.
Let's flip it around.
Okay.
A white man, a black man impregnates a white woman.
Yes.
Right? Ujabulani is tall. Gets Mariki van der Merwe pregnant.
Yes.
And then they give birth to Usboniso. Sitol.
Sboniso.
And his mother is white.
Injal.
Right?
Injal.
And then another generation, Usboniso Stole, marries a black girl, right?
Injalo.
So what happens to the mother's genetics then? Are they washed out of the child?
Yes, that's exactly what.
And then only
the mother is white, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So only Sitole's genetics are going to remain.
Only Sitole's genetics are going to remain. The genetics that remain are the dominant genetics,
All right.
whether it's male or female.
Biology. Women have 2 X chromosomes.
Injalo.
A man has an X and a Y chromosome. So the X chromosome comes from the woman. The Y chromosome is a broken X. Right?
That's what they say.
Okay, based on what they say.
Yes.
As much as what you are saying is what they say.
It is.
So all we are saying is what they say. Now, let's say they say
Okay.
Y chromosome is a broken X. So the only perfect genetic structure is feminine, is the double X. Yes? Because this one has an X and a broken X.
Right.
The X and Y.
So
the dominant genetic is that makes up the physical body of all of us is feminine, is the X. The Y gives us the characteristic that makes us male. This is genetics, right?
That's genetics, yes.
Okay. And you are saying it's the dominant gene that will always exist.
That will always be present in the child, yes.
And the mother's gene is always present in the son, in the child. Because the man child has an X. Which X comes from the mother.
Yes.
When they did a study in 1998, they studied women, their wombs, mitochondrial DNA,
yes,
TMT DNA. They found out that all women share the same DNA, double X chromosomes. So all males in the world have an X chromosome from females. The Y chromosome is what makes us different.
Yes.
So the feminine gene is more dominant than the male gene. This is why a man can give birth to a male or a female. But a female, through parthenogenesis, if they cut their own egg in half, they can constantly give birth to females, like lizards, like certain species of fish, certain snakes. They can only give birth to females because they themselves cut their own ovum.
Yes.
It's called parthenogenesis, virgin birth, if you may. So Jesus was supposed to be again, but that's the story for another day. So what you are saying is black is dominant and white is recessive.
Yes.
Is that not a study called eugenics that started in the 1960s based on a political racist agenda?
It is, Mkhulu, but that does not mean that we were not aware of it before they studied it.
Or it happened way before.
It's been there, right? And also to touch on the pathogenesis, yes. I've read up about that. They've tried it many times in humans. It has failed. It does not work. Even mitochondrial DNA, mitochondrial Eve, I think that's what they call So that gene value, it is true, Hori, that X chromosome comes from us. But now we have to be very, very, very careful when we are studying knowledge, right? It will appear as if, although I'm here to say what I have to say in Kulune, it will appear as if I am against certain groups of people, whereas I'm not. I'm just here to remind my people who they are, right? Who are black. So we must be very careful when we study things that are presented to us by the non-blacks, because they do not know the full science of how to. They don't know full science as it is, as black people know it, as they've been knowing it, right? Their science is based on the little information that they were given when Moses, Musa, is spoken about in the Bible, who, by the way, but let me not get into that. When Moses took them there, from when they were incarcerated behind those Caucasus Mountains there in Europe, he took them, Moses, and he took those white people to Egypt so that they can get civilized. And that's where they were taught by black people a certain portion of knowledge.
Moses took the people out of Israel, of Egypt.
That's the thing. it is twisted, that story, because that's not what happened.
Khosi kuzokushaya wena khosi uzomshaya yazi. Awufuna ukutwist iBhayibheli khosi
That's not what happened. I know that's what the Bible says.
Mhm.
That's true. But the knowledge that I've been given says that is not true. The Bible was actually written by black people, and it was taken by white people, and it was distorted. Certain things were distorted and changed within it. Right? So yes, the truth about that part is that Moses, who was, by the way, at the level of Jesus Christ, but we can talk about that as time goes by, was a Messiah as well. There were a total of 7 Messiahs in the past 6,000 years. So he was the 4th one, and his mission was to take white people from the Caucasus Mountain, bring them to Egypt so that they can be civilized and taught about how to take care of themselves. Because if you would know how white people were living there in those mountains, you could not differentiate them with animals.
How?
They were living like animals.
See, white people are going to listen to you talk like this. Khosi hayi ngiyakuphuza
Anginanking. I have to do what I have to do. I have to do what I have to do. We are born. So now, 50,000 years ago, right? I always derail from 50,000 years ago. So 50,000 years ago, we had a perfect community. Life on earth was perfect. And then, like I said, we are literal gods, believe it or not. So even the plants and animals that we see around us were actually created from our own bodies. I can get deep into that, but I don't want to touch on that right now. So I just want to talk about this 50,000 year, right?
So
now,
you believe in the genetic manipulation of the stories of Sumeria and Mesopotamia and Babylon, which they mixed genes of humans and animals and created new races.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. But it happened in the past 6,000 years. And this thing was actually led by white people after their creation. After Moses had civilized them 4,000 years ago and they were fine, they started doing those things, right? Experimenting with themselves, taking their own DNA, mixing it with other animals in Vadvat to see what's going to happen. And there's a reason behind why that happened. But before I get to that, 50,000 years ago, back when everything was still perfect, we are still in our original bodies. And then 24 elders, they made a communication to the rest of the 1 billion, 8 million black people on earth. And that communication was actually telepathic. It was not a message that was said by word and shit like this. Because, yeah, we were literal gods, when you think about it. So they made a telepathic communication to all 1 billion, 8 million black people that they must start deteriorating their bodies in preparation for this cycle of self-forgetfulness, right? So now, that's exactly what happened 50,000 years ago. And it took place.
They made a choice to degrade themselves.
This is the reason behind this is because God, and this is the purpose of God. God knows everything, knows the future. He dictates the future. Obviously, he knows the future. But the thing about God is that he has not experienced everything. So creation is created so that God can come into creation in the form of black people to experience what he already knows. Right? So black people then knew this purpose in our perfect bodies. We knew this purpose. We knew that we are eager to experience certain things, even this cycle of self-forgetfulness, whereby we forget that we are literal gods. We have been eager to experience this. So immediately when the communication was done 50,000 years ago that deteriorate your body so that we can now prepare for the cycle of self-forgetfulness, they did it without hesitation, without doubting their mind, because they wanted to experience it. They were like, we want to know how it is like
to be less than God.
How can I forget that I am God? We want to experience that. So for 50,000 years ago, for a period of 44,000 years, up until 6,000 years ago, black people were deteriorating themselves. They did that by, first of all, by letting go of certain rituals and practices that they were doing, right? That maintained themselves as gods, right? They let go of those rituals. They stopped doing them. The gods used to eat once in 3 days, right? They let go of that. They started eating more They didn't eat meat at all. They completely eating plants only. They started eating meat. They started doing those things, that would
Awuyidliwe
make sure.
inyama.
Hey, mkhulu. Angifuni ukuyidla inyama man, but
Mara eish.
go thata nyana.
Yeah, ileli dimo.
Hey.
I feel you. I feel you. I'm the same boat.
Hey.
Angifuni ukuyidla mara imnandi.
Hey, mkhulu.
Eish.
But ngiyazama. Sometimes nje like now when last
But you said we made a choice.
we made
the choice to deteriorate and
ourselves.
start eating meat.
And
So
start
eating
eating
meat is not wrong. It was a choice we made as gods.
Yes.
Not
So
wrong.
it is not wrong.
Yeah.
It's not wrong. We made that choice.
We made the choice as gods.
As gods.
Ukuthi inyama yenkomo nkosi yami. Hawu.
Siyadla manje. Yabo
Lapho-ke.
city scope nyana nje.
Uyayizwa le ntwana yami.
So that's basically what happened when we were deteriorating ourselves up until 6,000 years ago. Now, 6,000 years ago, when we were now in the state of bodies that we are right now, that's when we had reached the completion of the deterioration, right? Just to put things into perspective, in terms of how much we have deteriorated, white people living today will tell you that we have 2 strands of DNA, right? It's there in English, and that's true. It's there in their science, and it's true. The gods had 12 strands of DNA. So we deteriorated from the 12 strands of DNA.
Salahla 10 yonke.
Salahla 10 yonke mkhulu. Now we are left.
Ubani lo who my teacher, I've been taught. They taught me. He's my ubani lo.
He goes by the name Modimo Ntsho.
Modimo Ntsho, Black
Yes.
God.
Yes, that's literally what that's why I call myself the Black God. It's because it's a translation of Modimo Ntsho.
Oh, your teacher is Modimo Ntsho, and you, the student, call yourself Black God.
Yes.
You are translating your teacher's name.
Yeah, just in English. That's
Okay.
it. Yes.
Who's Modimo Ntsho?
Right. Modimo Ntsho, this is what I wanted to explain first in terms of the varying degrees of knowledge, right? That, okay, before I get into the varying degrees of knowledge, let me get into the various initiation systems that we have as Black people. We know in many cultures, even today, that the first initiation that Black people must undergo, no, today it doesn't happen. We have lost that as well. A proof again that we are still losing certain things, right? It's the general rights. For your mopatong, for your tabing, just for that 6 weeks or whatever, or for Credo and whatever, right? Those are the general rights that each and every single Black person would go through at about puberty, 15, 16 years old. And there you will get taught everything that you need to know about how to take care of yourself, how to clean, all of those things, right? Just basic human stuff that everyone has to know, right? And then the next level of initiation, which we still have today, whereby now, from everyone who's completed the general rights, a few are chosen in different ways. Could be dreams, could be whatever. They are chosen and they are initiated as what today we call dingaka or sango, right? That's the next level. Even to this day, that thing still happens. Now, there is another level that is above ubungom that is not spoken about, right? That the reason it's not spoken about is because it's been kept in secrecy for the past 6,000 years. Modimo Ntsho, my teacher, is an initiate of that level that is above ubungoma. He's a griot. If you can go and search what a griot is,
Malik, ngizoba nenkinga. Na inkinga yami Kgosi, not with you. Ngizoba nenkinga yomuntu othi yena une initiation a secret engaziwa abanye abantu, and yena is the only one with that title because there's no one to prove it.
True.
There's no one to say yes, no, he was my classmate in Yamaz. There's no one to say yes, no, it's a school, it's a knowledge system of our school. It's a secret initiation. Eyaziwa uye yedwa. If it was secret, uyazelaphi yena.
Right. So he's not the only one who knows it.
Who else?
There are a total of 12 tribes across the globe that know this knowledge.
12 fully fledged tribes.
Yes.
Who are those tribes?
10 of those tribes are here in Africa.
Who are they?
And then there's one in South America, I think. South America, yes, somewhere in Brazil. And then there's another.
No, what is its name? So I can go and study about it.
There are no knowledges. There's nothing about them on the internet.
Kgosi ngizokushaya. Kgosi ngizokushaya. Ngizokushaya Khosi. Khosi ngizokushaya.
So, okay. The only reference, the only reference of the knowledge I speak of that you can go and study on your own, and even more things that I won't even touch on today, that I probably have even forgotten, is that well, this Modimo Ntsho that I speak of has written 2 books
About this knowledge.
about this knowledge.
Are there any other books that speak about the same knowledge?
Yes, there is actually.
Which ones?
There is the books of Fard Muhammad as well as Elijah Muhammad.
Nakho asibambe lapho ke uze la ngokufuna khona.
Yebo mkhulu.
The creation of white people, black people were the first on earth. They were the original gods. That sounds a whole lot like Fard Muhammad.
Yes.
Elijah Muhammad,
Yes.
the founder of the Nation of Islam.
Exactly.
Elijah Poe was a child rapist, you know that?
I'm aware of those things.
He was a molester, you know that?
I am aware of those.
He was a Freemason, you know that?
Freemason, I don't know.
Yeah, he was a 33-degree Freemason, like me with my ring. Yabo?
Yeah,
He's a brother of mine. He was a Knight Templar, you know that? Elijah Muhammad was friends with a man called the founder of Scientology. Uyamazi?
Ubani lo mkhulu? Ngiyayazi i-Scientology.
Biza vusa umkhanya lapha. Biza ngizokukhumbula igama lakhe. There were 3 friends. They met on a cruise ship. One of them was Leonard Percival Howell. One of them was Elijah Poe. Scientology konje ubani igama lakhe? Bizwa Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard. Now, these people went out and created 3 religions in the world. One created Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad. One created Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. One created what we know as Rastafarianism, Leonard Percival Howell. Now, these people said, said black people are the original people and God is black. Elijah Muhammad wrote a book and created a religion called the Nation of Islam. And he said there was a man called Yakob with a very, 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 very big head.
Yes.
He experimented and created white people in a lab. Nobody else in the world speaks about that. It is only Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. True or false?
That is true.
And Elijah Muhammad says the whole world used to be called Asia. True or false?
That is true.
And he says everybody in the world was Asian. True or false?
Asiatic black people. That's how you...
I'm not Asiatic.
Yes.
True? Nakoge. Come again.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back again to 6,000 years ago. That's why I need to put things into perspective on how things happened and why they happened.
And the perspective is that this is one man's story from a secret initiation that nobody else knows about, right?
This is not one man's story. The initiation is secret, but there is a reason behind why it has been secret, right? That's why I want to start from 6,000 years ago. That's when initiation, before then, black people were initiated openly, publicly, right? But because of this cycle of self-forgetfulness, whereby white people are going to get created, there had to be a certain people that will store this knowledge of our origins and then go and live in certain villages, very, very remote villages on this very planet. And their goal for the past 6,000 years was to make sure that they never lose this knowledge. And in fact, the rituals and initiations that they go through ensure beyond any doubt that they never lose that knowledge, right? And they had to keep it so that this 6,000 year cycle of self-forgetfulness can pass by. And after it passes by, then that knowledge will get reintroduced again, which is about to get reintroduced in the very near future. That is the reason why.
Modimo Ntsho,
yes.
At some point in history, did he meet Credo Mutwa?
They never met, but he knows about him.
Oh, they never met.
He has never told me that they've met. Maybe they have, because he was born 19 something then. He's still alive today. Maybe they have met. I don't know.
I'm hearing some similarities between Credo Mutwa and what he's talking about.
Credo Mutwa, after his initiation as a Sangoma, also went this type of initiation
So
as a Grayot.
he also went to a
Or-
secret initiation.
He also went to
that
higher
nobody
initiations.
else knows about.
Yes. And in fact,
In
he talks about yes.
And then he also came back to be the only Sanusi, the last Sanusi remaining.
There was a man that was born amongst the 12 tribes that existed then. He was born and his mission was to create white people. In fact, he is known very much as Yakob, but his real name is actually a name that is used very much in the Bible. His real name is Yahweh.
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 Oh, Yahweh, the big-headed man.
Yahweh, the big-headed man. That's his actual real name.
Much of us witness azokudubula wena.
Yahweh, the creator of white people, was a black man like me and you. That is a very, very harsh truth to try and accept, even for us as black people. But that is the case.
Have you said this to Christians?
I don't talk to Christians. I know most of them. I lost cause in jail. So, but if they ask, I can tell them.
Sis Pete, ninjani kanti nina bafana nina?
Yebo mkhulu.
I love you, man. I'm enjoying your conversation.
Yeah. So a man was called Yahweh. He was born called Yahweh. Who had a mission to create white people. And this mission came very, very clear to him. In fact, how he discovered that, or came to realize his mission, we are told that he was playing with magnets. And while he was playing with magnets, he realized, for Norman, magnet has two polar opposite sides, right? The positive one and the negative one. And then he looked around the society. He's like, hi, we are all black here. And the society is perfect. Everything is good. There is no way. It should be possible that there is something that is completely different or completely opposite the black people. And then from there, that's when he went out and studied whatever he was studying that he was taught. And he became obsessed with that idea of saying, what if, using the magnets, positive and negative, what if I create a people by knowing they are completely opposites of black people? He was reasoning back at that time that these people, if they were to be created, they were to come and they were going to rule the entire world in Vatvat, because that negative part or the evil side of us that is within us is going to take over the good that was there before, because that's how our society was: perfect, good, no evil things, no immorality and stuff like that. He says, no, man, there must exist the opposite to this, and that's how the idea was planted into him. And he actually went by to create white people, right? So now, after that, he met his soulmate at about puberty. Back then, we had a lot of rituals that are not here right now. He met his soulmate at about puberty. They got married. Now, the concept of marriage then does not mean anything that we do today. It's completely different. Marriage then meant that to have sex with someone and reach climax, and in reaching that climax, you experience what is called divine unity. Basically,
Khosi man ukhuluma ngama-climax nama-hayi khosi ngayake. Hayi khosi hayi.
Mkhulu.
Into zonke abadala.
Ngiyaxolisa mkhulu. Eish. Kumele ngikhulume mphela anginayo i-choice. Uyabona? So
the whole point of marriage then was to unite and reach climax.
Yes.
Okay.
What people call the old word.
Orgasm.
Yes. That's what people call today. But then, even if we reach that orgasm today, it is not under the right ritual for us to actually get to a point whereby we experience divine unity. Divine unity is the two minds becoming one, becoming operating as one thing, but in two different bodies. That's the concept of soulmates.
When the two shall become one,
when the
and
two shall
become the same.
That's exactly it.
Washo ubhuti uJesu.
Injalo.
Yamazi ubhuti.
Ngimazi kahle, he was a black man, he existed.
Yamazi ukuthi ubhuti wami uzalwe ekhaya.
Angazi. Hey, that one I don't know.
uJesu libhele. Uyazi lokho. Ufunde lapha eBhayibhelini bathi the son of righteousness ulanga lokulunga.
Oh, okay.
Yakithi lensizwe le.
He's from your.
He's from my secret clan.
Yes, no, ngiyakuzwa mkhulu.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Hayi ngikulalela. So
Yes.
this man was created for one purpose, to create the white people. And how he discovered this thing was by playing with magnets
Yes.
and seeing negative and positive forces.
Injalo.
And he looked at society and realized that we can't have a society with only positivity.
Yes.
There has to be a negative to this positive.
There has to be a negative somewhere, somehow.
How did he create white people?
Yes. That's what I'm going to get into.
Orgasm.
No.
Ganjani.
Not Ganjalo.
Oh, so back then, to create black people, you had to reach climax.
No. The climax thing is only for marriage.
Oh,
It is just marriage. It is
and then,
the uniting of two people.
Yes. And then, now, how did he create white people?
Yes. Let me get
Was
into
it
that
sexual?
one. Yes. It was
Without
sexual.
climax?
Without climax.
Hey, ungayisho uyazi abantu abaningi phela ayi Nkosi yami yo bakwethu please we are speaking knowledge as khuluma izinto ezisnacks, so I don't understand him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he actually first proposed this idea, right, to his community, right? He proposed this idea and he told them about this magnet thing, positive, negative, and he said that the 24 elders who were by that time were still there. The black people still knew about them at that time. They were purposefully what is it? They were purposefully suppressing this white recessive gene so that we can always be in a good and harmonic
So
society.
the white recessive gene was always there.
It's there even today in us.
So white people come from us.
They literally come from us.
So white people are actually black people.
They are not black people.
But they come from us.
But we created them, yes.
Okay. Ukuzwayo gives birth to a son. What is his name?
Kuzwayo.
Yeah.
And
Like,
Kuzwayo
a man, Kuzwayo, gives birth to a son. What is his name? Kuzwayo, right? And that son gives birth to a son. What is his name?
Kuzwayo no.
All right. So black people gave birth to white people, but white people are not black people.
Yes. Let me explain that. We have to understand what we mean by black.
Okay.
That if we can define black, we will know why white people are not black people, right? To be black, or rather, let me say, besides the obvious skin color that we see around, we see you are black, everyone is black, right? Besides that obvious thing, there's a scientific way to discover if someone is black or not. And in short, you are black only if and only if you have the black dominant gene. That's it.
The black dominant
The
gene.
black dominant gene. It is there in life science, biology. They talk about it.
What is it called?
The black dominant gene. That's just what it's called.
Melanin?
It is thank you very much for that.
Carbon?
It is not carbon. It is not melanin. In fact, it is the source of melanin.
Or it's the melanin before melanin.
It is where melanin comes from.
What is that source?
It is what I call the black gene or the black gene. The gene. If you take your DNA, you will see that your two-stranded DNA, you will see that there are certain dominant genes that are dominant. For example, we have the genes that all white people have. Golden hair that is loose. But then this kinky hair is more dominant than that one. So that's why my hair is like this. Only the dominant ones express themselves outward. Yeah, you understand.
So what about Greeks with curly black hair?
Greeks with curly
and dark shade of skin.
Right. So that
the Portuguese, the Turks, the Southern Europeans. What about them?
So that would require me to explain the entire process of how white people were created.
Okay.
Right. And this is how white people were created. Back then, when we were black as under the bed, right?
Black as under the bed.
Back when we were pitch black, Yahweh and his soulmate, whose name is Maitei.
Yahweh Mutswana. Umfazi wakhe uMaitei.
No one has ever said that in public before, Mkhulu. But I will say it right now here as my own unpopular opinion to say that Yahweh was a black Tswana man, and I can prove it.
Yes, I.
I can prove it.
I'm listening, my lord.
But let me not get into that. Or should I get into that?
Please do.
That would maybe require a board or something to explain the name of Yahweh, where it actually comes from. When you read the name Yahweh, it's Y-A-H. Yahweh. Is it what's W-E-H?
W-E-H, yeah.
Yes. Yahweh. Actually, the name Yahweh is not even said correctly. There's a U that is missing. It's supposed to be Yahweh.
Yahweh who?
Yahweh.
Okay, Yahweh.
Now, when you correctly pronounce the name, you separate Yah, A-Y-A, and then the rest, H-W-E-H-U, the U. So, ki Yahweh.
Ki Yahweh who?
Yahweh.
Okay.
That's not the full name though. I'm still trying to break it down. Now, when white people were being taught about their God, when Moses took them from behind the Caucasus Mountains in Europe and went to civilize them in Egypt, they were civilized by black people. When they were taught, because when they got there, they were taught about their creator by Moses, who I remember just a few minutes ago, I said, who by the way is, and then
an equal of Christ. Yeah.
An equal of Christ. And I also said that, let me not get into that. Moses, whose real name was Musa, was also a Tswana man.
Musa.
That's what his real name.
Oh. Musa.
There are people even
Musa
today.
Musa Kronstadt Jalpona.
Cool. Even to this day, there are people that are called Musa. His real name was Musa, right? But then it got translated into Moses and stuff like that. Sharp.
When ufuna ukuthi abelungu bakreate umtswana
by black people, me saying that Yahweh is a Tswana man, it's not me trying to say maybe that's where God is. No. The underlying message there is that
no, we understand you say Yahweh was somebody born and he was a creator of white people.
Yes.
So he's not the God. He's the God of the white people.
He's the God of the white people. He's not our God.
So the white people pray to Motswana.
Yes. White, us and me and you, Mkulu, and Yahweh are on the same level. He's our brother, Yahweh. So Yahweh was our brother. Now, when they were being taught in Egypt about their creator, they were told the full name of their creator, which is Yahweh. Yahweh. Right?
Okay.
But then because even then, white people's tongues, because from where they came from in the Caucasus Mountains of Europe, they were with animals and they lost their ability to speak. They couldn't speak, right? So they were just making noises. So when they were taught this name, Yahweh, they would pronounce it like children. You know, they wouldn't say Yahweh, they would say Yahweh, as you would imagine a child would do. So they would always leave out that BA. And that's how that BA got removed. And then the term, the name came Yahweh, and then eventually as time went by, the U was removed and it became Yahweh. Now let me go back again.
Before you go back, sizothatha break manje ne.
Alright.
Ngifuna ba digest iningi lento ekhulumayo phela Nkosi.
Iningi mkhulu.
Iningi lento ekhulumayo uNkulunkulu umtswana wadala abelungu badalwa 6000 years ago. Nkosi yami phela abantu bashiselwa amakhanda. Let's take a break and then we'll come back and expand sizoxoxa more.
Akunankinga.
Yazwa ke? Nakho ke.
Thank you.
Yabahwehu.
Yes.
Umbheke umfazi indoda kabani bathiye. Ubani umfazi yabahwehu.
Maitseyi.
Umaitseyi. Nakhiya yabahwehu and Maitseyi masibuya la. Give thanks.